You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene. Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's The Walking Dead After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's The Walking Dead After Show.
Hey guys, and welcome to The Walking Dead After Show. I am here, joining me, Derrial Christon.
What's up, everybody?
And guys, to his right, Nando Velasquez.
Hello, everybody.
AKA, if you've been on the chat, Nandy Velasquez, as I accidentally
Damn that spell
typoed.
check. Spell check.
I call it, you know what it is? It's apparently Nandy is a normal word according to Apple.
Apparently.
But Nando isn't.
It works.
You need to go up to Silicon Valley and yell at them, I think.
Okay, sure, I'll make that happen.
But let's go ahead and jump on The Walking Dead. Sorry for this side. Because we got so a lot happening. And there's this issue with rats, which we're going to touch on at the end because that is the big question of the episode. So we're going to get to that. But the other thing that we have going on is we have Tyrese hooking up with Karen. They're making it a little bit further. And Karen doesn't want to have a slumber party quite yet, a.k.a. sex quite yet. Too bad. Too bad. They should have just, you know what?
You wanted
it's
the
the
scene?
apocalypse. It's the apocalypse. You just gotta go for it because you never know when.
It could be our last
day's
night
gonna be.
together.
It could be.
It could be our last
Or
night
maybe
together.
Karen did not have condoms.
Maybe.
Well, I think Glenn was able to get some in one of his runs. So
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully he got enough for everybody.
Yeah, maybe sharing them.
Share and alike.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Why
That's
not?
totally safe, right?
But it's interesting
That's
because
what I learned in sex ed.
or for as the chat, the pull-out method.
Yeah, and apparently everyone
okay.
was like, you gotta use the pull-out method. Duh, what's Glenn and Maggie thinking? Yeah, because that works 100% of the time.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
great contraceptive right
Right?
there.
That's
Absolutely.
sarcasm. Don't do that.
Don't do that, kids.
Don't do that. I
Don't
wanna
listen
be
to these
blamed
three
for
guys up
pregnancy.
here.
I thought it was surprising that Tyrese and Karen hadn't gotten it on yet because, I don't know, I just figured, like I said, it's the apocalypse and you found someone you can bond with, and yet she's like, no, I want to wait. Like, wait for what? Wait
She's
for what?
waiting for their relationship to blossom.
It's interesting, and it shows another dynamic to Tyrese because Tyrese has definitely been a gentle giant,
Yeah.
and it really shows like, okay, I'll wait.
And he's
I'll go
clearly
back
old
to
school.
my
My
own-
man had like flowers and
Oh yeah,
like,
he's
you know,
singing. He's singing some old
singing,
school. I
yeah.
got you under my skin, which probably could also go to the whole virus thing too. I got you
Yeah.
under my skin.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys remember, if any of you guys read the comics, he was actually a football player in the comics, and now he's as you guys said, gentle giant singing away. Maybe he still is a badass, awesome football player. We don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe they decide they've done enough black
He's
stereotypes for one.
Let's
for
end the
enough
black
seasons, you know?
stereotypes, all right?
Let's
Already.
put an
Enough
end to that.
already.
He's
No.
yeah, he's got the physique of a football player, but he definitely doesn't have the attitude of one.
No,
Yeah.
he's a swell guy.
Mm.
A swell guy. So then we got Patrick coming back, and Patrick is now back, and that's kind of as it wraps up with Karen walking to her room, and Patrick skipping over Karen's room, luckily, and goes and starts biting the neck of a nameless guy who we don't know from the village and from Woodbury, and I just don't get it. Why? I feel like you feel a sharp pain. You wake up screaming or punching something, or you'd have some reaction other than just staying there and letting it happen. But that's just me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Maybe
Nando,
he
you
thought he
first.
was still dreaming. I don't know. It is kind of weird. You would think he'd at least make more movement. Maybe they couldn't pay the actor enough.
Yeah.
Like if you move, we have to pay you more. So lie still and just take it.
well, here's my thing. I mean, one of you guys said this during when we were watching the show. I mean, yeah, possibly he could have been startled out of his sleep and that he didn't have the chance to really scream because Patrick was, chowing down on his neck at the time. But even in that moment, you would like hit something or something would be, you would hit the cell.
Or you move it off of your neck
Move
at
it off your
least?
neck or something. And then here's my whole point. Why wasn't the cell door closed?
Yeah.
I know they can't be necessarily locked, but why wasn't it closed? Because at least that's some form of protection, because if someone goes to open your door, you may hear that. There may be something that triggers you to wake up.
Yeah, well,
'Cause you gotta live like humans.
We had a really big discussion about this during
Humanity.
the show while watching the show, and as a former New Yorker living in LA, I mean, I'm used to locking my door, so I could totally understand that. Originally, I figured, well, it's a prison. You can't really lock a door from the inside.
But you can close it.
But
They
you can close it. No, and
They
you
showed
see
that.
it later on. You're right. And they show it later on in the episode. There are some doors that were closed. Charlie kept his door closed because he sleepwalks.
Yeah.
So apparently you can. But I think it includes with this guy that was lying down, just getting his vocal cords chomped on. It just leads to a false sense of security. I mean, what would it be to live in a place like that and feel so open that you can just put like curtains instead of bars and just leave it open? It just leads to overconfidence, a false sense of security, and it really just shows how laid back the general population in that prison is in comparison to the council, in comparison to people that go out and do the raids or go out and stab the fences. They've just gotten very comfortable and trusting.
Well, Karen is part of the stabbing of the fences, but Liz, and she lives in D Block. This was D Block, but Liz saying that none of them were closed, any of the doors. They got too comfortable, kind of agreeing. But I'm kind of wondering, Nando, you said you always lock your door and close it, or at least close it. What about you, Derrial?
Yeah, I mean, I lived in New York too, so definitely did, and I live in LA now, and I lock my door.
I never lived in New York, but I even like back in Chicago and here, I always close and lock my door. I actually had a terrible experience where there's a door that couldn't lock, and at 4 a.m, someone randomly opened it and walked into my room. Drunk, didn't know what was going on, and just started asking me about the numbers and passed out in my room.
Thank God they weren't a walker.
Thank God.
But yeah, I mean,
it's just natural to me. Like I don't live in this apocalypse.
Well,
I lock my door too.
most of these people are probably from rural areas. I know there are lots of places. I mean, being like I said, raised in a city, you get your parents teach you. They embed that in you. It's like, why didn't you lock the door? But I know lots of people who I had roommates who moved here to LA and they don't lock their doors. And they don't lock, and I'm like always having discussions with them like, why don't you lock the doors? We're in a city. And they're like, oh, it's okay. No one really goes and just tries doors randomly. And yeah, but again, it's a false sense of security, and it just shows it's a very rural community, rural attitude perhaps, and they're all very trusting.
They are trusting, but what happened to the part of there was always a watch guard, I feel like, in past episodes?
But why do you need one that deep in? You would assume that the attack would come from the fence and you would hear about it. You would have enough time to close the doors as opposed to inside.
I guess the idea is that they've already cleared out the prison. They've been living there for 6 to 7 months, we've now found out. And, I guess it's that sense of security, the false sense of security, that they think the attack's coming from outside, not from within. But Liz saying that she's comfortable in her house and sleeps with her door closed and nothing's trying to eat her. Sarah Parsons, or so we think. Sarah Parsons saying that, but wouldn't you, if you hadn't had anything exciting happen for a few months, they wanted it to feel more like home. So I guess maybe it's more of a rural thing. I mean, I'm from a suburb of Chicago, not from the city itself, where it is a lot safer. It's not a city, but I'm still used to closing my doors. I guess for me, it's just the sense of privacy.
Yeah.
I feel like you just want privacy.
Well, that's what the curtain's there for. I guess there's privacy, but there's still not enough to just close a gate. It's just weird.
Yeah, well, we're fighting zombies on the show, so
maybe they're just
in reference to fighting zombies. I think I'm going to close my crap.
Maybe they're afraid someone's going to hit that master switch, like in the officer room, and just lock everybody in. I don't know. It's just weird.
So Sarah Parsons saying again on the chat that she locks her front door, but the bedroom door stays open at night. So I think that is a lot of attitude of a lot of people's. As long as one main door is closed,
the main gate's closed, the main gate's locked. So there you go.
But let's go ahead and move forward with the fact that we'll get back to some of the stuff that happens in the middle here, but we've got. Rick and all of them, he's outside, they're outside, and they hear these gunshots from within, kind of at the same time as the things are happening with Michonne, which we'll come back to, but they hear gunshots from within and issues from within, so Rick and crew run inside to where there's just chaos going on in the D block, because now you've got 2 walkers who are now going and infecting other people, and they just have to go back to normal zombie killing mode, walker killing mode, and take care of everything, with Derrial just kicking ass as always. And then Derrial ends up being the one who has to kill Patrick as well at the end.
Can I just say it was really interesting that, considering the cliffhanger from last week was Patrick falling over and becoming a zombie and us saying, oh no, zombie, it's going to be in the prison, that it took exactly 12 minutes or 13 minutes for that scene to finally play out. Other than the opening scene when Patrick got that first guy, all of a sudden we see this, like, overnight nothing happens really. It's just like chomping on that one guy, and it's like everyday life, and then all of a sudden, like 12-13 minutes into the episode, all of a sudden we hear all this stuff. It was brilliantly played in a way, because the suspense, we all knew it was going to happen, but it took them 13 minutes to hit that.
Well, it's also strange. It was more not even the suspense part to me. It's more just strange, like, all right, well, I mean, Patrick got infected at like midnight or something time during the middle of the night, and now it's like the middle of the day, and it took him a long time to chow down and then switch over. It took longer than I would have expected time frame.
And the other guy to wake up
time-wise.
as a zombie too.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd think it would have happened during the middle of the night or be a quick outbreak, but
Well, I actually thought maybe
It's
someone
not.
would have noticed beforehand that he wasn't around.
That
too.
too.
Like, no one noticed that Patrick was
nobody
missing.
cares about Patrick.
Oh,
okay?
Patrick.
Nobody
All
cares.
right.
Aw.
Fine. Well, I would have thought someone would have noticed. That's
Poor
you know.
Phineas.
Exactly.
So they kind of end up cleaning up shop, and I guess we'll touch on the dying man and Carol and that whole storyline in a little bit, the father, but we get this Rick having to kill another walker, and then they kind of glance at this walker, this new one, and there's another one, not just Patrick, but there's another one who has died just like Patrick, who has bled out of his mouth. It turns out to be, I guess, pleurisy aspiration, which is you choke on your own
Choking
blood.
your own blood. Yeah.
And and then I guess if you want to read out the name of it, the name of the disease it could possibly be, Derrial.
Wow. It's like
Pneumococcal.
It was a
the aggressive flu stream. So strain.
As opposed to stream.
Strain. Yes.
And it was based on an internal lung pressure building up. I saw somewhere on the web someone called it a strain of Spanish fly. No, Spanish like a virus? No, what was it? Oh, I can't remember now. Spanish flu. Spanish fly. Totally different thing. Spanish flu. So I have to look up what Spanish flu is.
But they do say it could be an aggressive flu strain. An aggressive
fly strain.
Spanish flu strain.
Yes,
Then
an aggressive
It came all the way
flu
from
strain.
Spain with all, So Sarah Parsons wondering how no one even heard the chomping, another thing with that one scene from before. And she says, I wouldn't have heard that in a dead sleep, pun intended. Okay.
Nice.
So,
But
so anyways, though, we find out that it could be some sort of disease, pneumococcal or an aggressive flu strain, and they cause pleurisy aspiration. And as we know in this world, once you die, you immediately turn into a walker. That's just what happens, no matter how you die. Not even because everyone's infected. Period. And we found that out in season 1. But I was kind of thinking, wow, they figured out real quick what it was. I guess maybe that was the doctor they were talking about with them. Dr. S.
I guess
He
that's
knows
the
his
guy.
stuff,
Dr.
man.
S knows his stuff.
He's good.
He's able to recite
He's not
all those.
like
He's
that.
got a lot of time on his hands, Dr. S.
But again, it really kudos to them for noticing right away. They just inspect these bodies and they notice that Patrick and this other guy had no bites and no wounds. So they automatically just went straight to, okay, it must be a flu strain. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wow,
I mean,
damn,
for the
this guy's
purpose of
good.
moving the story forward, it's also good because we don't have to have them trying to figure out, like, how are people dying? We don't
Right.
know. Just get it out there. So, which I liked.
Hey, props to Dr. S. was it?
S.
That's what they call
Props
it.
to Dr. S. He
Yeah.
knows his stuff. So Rick now, and they're kind of talking about how all of them, they don't want the people who have interacted and now may be affected interacting with the people who aren't, just to keep the people who aren't safe. And this is now the first glimpse we see of the council too. We get to actually see the council, which is Carol, Derrial, Sasha, Glenn, and Herschel. I think Rick's also considered part of the council, but he's never on the meetings.
I mean, last week they kind of made it clear that he wasn't part, and it goes with his whole like I'm doing the farmer zen thing on the side, which I guess we'll talk more about later. But
yeah, that's true. Good point. Good point. I was kind of thinking with a lot of this scene about keeping them separate and all that, it does make sense, but it reminded me a lot of the Black Plague back during the medieval era, and how that was how they treated the Black Plague. Was they tried to put everyone who was sick in a sick house together. And
Why's it got to
everyone
be
who wasn't.
black? No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Ask the medievals call it that.
Why the medievals got to call it black? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I think there actually was a real reason they called it that. Something about
no,
you
it
start-
actually was.
Yeah, there
I
was
think
a-
I think the
it would,
bodies
like,
turned
discolor
black.
you.
Yeah, it was discoloring.
Yeah.
That's why there's Ring Around the Rosie, pocket full of posies. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. That's from the Black Plague. That's
That was
actually
pretty
where it
good.
came from.
Oh my gosh.
That's the origin of that song, if you didn't know that.
But again,
Learning things.
in this world, it makes total sense that eventually, Black Plague was what I was thinking of too.
But the other thing about the Black Plague is if you actually study up on it, it was actually really bad that they did that because the people who were sick would just get sicker.
Get sicker, yeah.
So it's actually not the best that they did that, even though it makes sense. It makes logical sense that you're like, okay, let's separate the sick from the not sick, but it really didn't work at all.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing about the Black Plague, apparently people who survived from the Black Plague and their offspring and survivors, I've heard this, I think it's true, but look it up, make sure. But I think they actually they don't catch AIDS. They can't get that strain. Something about the strain and the Black
at you
Plague.
with all
If you look at their
all your
lineage
facts.
and you figure that, wow, that's interesting.
So double check and make sure I'm telling truths here. But I'm pretty sure I learned that when I was studying.
So all
medieval
you're saying is
history.
you need a vaccination of the Black Plague.
Yeah, just
and it cures all.
get
And it
the Black
cures?
Plague, and hopefully if you survive the
Yeah.
Black Plague,
And you will
guess
survive
what?
everything else.
Your body will develop to not get AIDS.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure on that one. Double check that one just in case I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
triple check that.
Triple check that one. But yeah, that's an important one.
That's a Dave.
The
fact.
thoughts
No,
of
I'm kidding.
Dave do not reflect the thoughts of AfterBuzz or anything else.
Or the Walking Dead council
Walking
up
Dead, yes,
here.
exactly.
The Walking Dead Council. So let's go ahead and talk on some of the other things that we have going on. So we've got some of the relationships growing that we've seen. We've got Maggie with Glenn. I just want to touch on this thing because it was one of the few cute scenes we get to see
That was
here. With
adorable.
Glenn taking the picture of Maggie. I thought it was
That's
cute.
lovely.
That's such
Just
a
wanted to throw
normal
it out.
couple type thing too, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, like a little conversation.
And we've got Michonne coming back. And this whole moment where Michonne, in the beginning, she's coming back, and something has gone wrong, and she's coming back, and she can't get inside in time, and Carl has to go run and help her, and Maggie has to go help her, and Carl ends up shooting one of them, and Michonne ends up tripping. My thought was, Michonne is usually really good with her samurai blade. I was surprised that once she was off of her horse, she didn't just whip it out immediately and kill them right away.
I was too. I mean, she when she jumped off the horse, I was expecting the sword to come out, but it was like she wanted to fight them. You know, just like without the sword for some reason. That's what it seemed like.
I
to
just
me.
took the whole thing as she was caught off guard. She was on her way out. She heard the gunshots. She went back over, and usually the coordination that they have when she comes, like last week's episode, where they're right on the door and they open it up right away, it just wasn't there. They were all caught off guard by the attack on the inside. So she was stuck with the horse, waiting for the doors to open, and zombies are walking right up to her. So I think it was just a moment of like a brain fart with everybody because of what was going on, and she was caught completely off guard. It was a very vulnerable moment for her, though. That's for sure.
It's probably
it was
the most vulnerable
surprisingly
moment, one
vulnerable.
of the most vulnerable moments we've seen of her.
Yes.
throughout
Totally.
both seasons,
Absolutely.
so.
Very surprisingly vulnerable, but Carl ends up being the one that kind of comes to her rescue, even with the no gun rule that Rick has given him. So Carl using it.
And notice the lingering shot, like afterwards, even though he knew he was killing a zombie and not a kid, like at the end of last season, it still affects him.
So everyone on the chat's talking about Michonne and Rick, and Rochonne, as they call it. That we'll touch on that topic later.
Yeah.
Later
A lot
on, we
to
will
say
touch
about
on that.
that.
Sorry about not talking about it last week. So the other thing that we see too, the other kind of, or I guess let's go keep on with Michonne. So Michonne is now with Beth.
Yeah.
And Beth and Judith, and she has this moment where Beth's kind of taking care of her and helping her, and they're staying separated because they're not infected. So that's why they're all separated. They're with Judith. They're separate, and Michonne doesn't want to have anything to do with Judith, the baby. So, and then when she actually does get Judith, she starts crying. She starts tearing up. She doesn't at all want to hold it. And my thoughts was I think that she probably, we know she lost her boyfriend, but she probably also lost a child at some point. It would be my thought. Maybe from her boyfriend, maybe they were going to have a child and it was a stillbirth or something like that. Maybe it was from walkers, but it could have just been even before everything happened. For some reason, she lost a baby.
Well, it was revealed in the comic book in her backstory that she was a mother.
She was a mother.
So it was revealed there. So I'm guessing this is definitely going into her backstory.
Way to just ruin everything. We're going to get 20 hate comments because of
It's
you.
such a minor spoiler,
Luckily,
guys.
it's not
really.
me. Usually, I'm the one.
No,
who
it's
spoils
such a
things,
minor.
so.
It's such a minor spoiler. It's just something with the backstory. So, and I think it's a pretty safe assumption to say that she definitely has a connection with the kid. Also, what I thought was interesting about her first of all, the way she held Judith.
Yeah.
And then the way she not only was crying but hugging. We don't see that kind of human interaction much from her. She's such a hard ass, and to see her like really just like melt with Judith was a really touching scene. I was really impressed by that.
But I think we're starting to see it a little bit with elements like the way she deals with Carl, though. I mean, she definitely, there is a connection between she and
absolutely.
Carl that we're starting to see her
but not
soften.
physically. But not as physically like that.
Not as physical, but we still see the softer side of Michonne that we haven't seen in previous seasons.
Yeah.
So
She just has walls that need to be
she's got
taken
walls,
down.
and they're definitely being taken down.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Michonne making progress too, definitely. And
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how she progresses with that arc. But I feel like she's kind of just becoming this protector of Rick's family. This will even further show that. Now I think she's gonna have a connection with Judith. She already does with Carl, and we will talk about the Rick thing too. But let's go ahead and talk about Mika and Lizzie and Carol. So Carol starts off with she's with their father, and she's about to amputate the father's arm because now they know they can do this, when it turns out the father has been not just been in the arm but also in the back of the neck.
Yeah.
Can't amputate a neck.
Can't. Well, I guess you could amputate a neck.
Well,
Yeah.
that
But it
we
wouldn't save
did.
them.
Yeah, it
It
wouldn't
would
really
not
save
save
them.
them.
Can't amputate a head.
A lot of blood loss.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe be like a chicken. You run around for a little while without a head. You don't know. So, but yeah, so you can't amputate someone's head. So they're going to. So she calls in Mika and Lizzie. She's been teaching them these classes, and she wants them to be there for it. She tells them they don't have to be, but they choose to be there for it after the classes that she's been teaching. And Lizzie, who's the older one, who'd seem like to me, I believe, is the eldest one, she's going to go ahead and do it. She takes the knife. She's going to take care of it, and she just cannot do it. And she breaks down, and Mika ends up telling her to look at the flowers while Carol takes care of it. And I kind of felt like it was kind of surgical to me, the way that it was done. It was almost just like this surgical moment. I mean, there was emotion to it in the way they were doing it, but it was almost just like a surgical procedure in a sense to me.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of a good thing in a way.
Well, it just shows
In a
Carol
sense.
again being a badass. This was her badass moment again,
Yeah.
kind of like she's throwing the knives, doing the knife class last week. Now it's like showing it.
Yeah,
So-
well, it's like two sides to it because it's like Carol being a badass, but it also goes back to showing that Carol's kind of the mother of all. I feel like she's the mother of the group, and we've talked about this. And it's like those two girls, Mika and Lizzie, are the replacements for Sophia for her.
I love they're like, look at the flowers, Lizzie.
Sophia!
I love look at the flowers, Lizzie. Look at the flowers. Look at the flowers, Lizzie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know why I love that line for some reason. It was weird.
I like that line too.
And I
but
feel like she's teaching them things that she didn't teach Sophia.
Yes.
Like I think she's in like a whole different mindset now because of her loss and just what she's learned since the death of Sophia, that she's like, you know what? She's kind of taking these other kids under her wing. Is like, they're gonna be equipped to handle themselves.
This is her second chance.
This is her second chance,
and
Yeah.
she gets to right the wrongs that she did
Yes.
raising Sophia.
Yeah.
And this is her opportunity with these two kids. So she gets to be a mom again. I think that's great for her. I mean, she's been the maternal figure for a lot of people, for everybody there, for all the main characters, and now she really gets to prove herself with these two. And it's really going to be interesting. The scene last week by the fence with Carl and the girls where they were naming the zombies, so, like, that was a really funny scene, them one-upping each other. It's going to be really interesting now that these it looks like these two characters we're going to see a lot more of them now that they're attached to
for
Carol.
sure.
So it'll be really interesting to see their dynamic with Carl and other people in the cast.
So Sarah Parsons is saying that she thinks Lizzie is the perfect example of a young girl trying to make sense of the world around her amongst all the chaos around her. She can't handle it and doesn't know who to turn to because her mom is not there and she's not that close to Carol yet. And that makes sense. I mean, I'm sure she's pretty close to Carol at this point. It's been 6 to 7 months, but that's true. It's not her mother. It's not her father, who she's just now lost. But we get this scene afterwards with Carol telling her that she wasn't strong enough. She was too weak. And I think that's, again, that reflection of Sophia that you were talking about. But Lizzie actually ends up standing up for her Mika ends up standing up for her, saying that Lizzie's just upset about Nick and that she's messed up. She's not weak. So there's this character, Nick, now. We don't know who he is. That apparently was also important in their life that they lost.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I mean, she just mentioned that. I think I don't want to say it was a throwaway name, but I guess it was somebody. I'm not sure what the father's name was, if it was Nick or not. We were trying to debate if Nick was the dad or not.
It wasn't because they were saying it as if Nick and the father was a different person.
I just felt like the father's a different person than what he became or what he was going to become, which was a walker. But yeah, I'm not sure who Nick was. I guess it wasn't really.
I was thinking maybe it was like an older brother.
Yeah, because it seemed like they were two different characters.
I mean, maybe. Okay. I mean, for all we know, maybe it was a gay relationship. I mean, it was a second father.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? It's possible.
I don't know.
Anything's possible in The Walking Dead.
I don't know.
But yeah, so definitely another important character that they have lost in their life. And we kind of get the wrap up of this scene with Carol trying to console them and giving her the flower. She gets the flower.
Look at the flower, Lizzie.
Look at the flower.
Look at the flower. Here's a flower in your hair.
You can still be a girl and a warrior. You can become a tiny warrior, as Liz says. Become a tiny warrior. So let's go ahead and touch on the fence patrol. So the fence patrol is kind of that, to me, is that whole scene of when the fence started coming down, all of a sudden an immediate fence patrol had to pop up with trying to stop this fence from coming down. So Rick and Derrial end up running over there, Rick and Derrial was digging up graves, and Maggie calls them over because Maggie's the one who notices this, and they all start running down and just start stopping them
everywhere.
And I kind of liked your observation, Derrial, if you wanted to throw that out.
Well, when I was watching it, I just noticed that everyone else outside of Rick just immediately was stabbing, eyeballs, heads, whatever, to kill the zombies. But Rick always took a moment to glance at each face before he stabbed them. And I thought it was interesting because I'm like, it should be no connection at this point. You're trying to save the fence and you're trying to do these things. Why is he taking a moment to actually physically look at their faces before he stabbed
I
them.
wonder if that goes toward the gun and the fact that he's become more of a farmer. He's like semi-retired in a way in the camp. I mean, Carl, when he shot that zombie to save Michonne, he had a very similar look afterwards. So even attacking zombies, it seems really interesting that they've gotten. I don't want to say they've gotten weak, but I feel like that's a good way to put it in a way, that the fact that it's affecting him just to stab a zombie.
Well, the other thing too is just to me it's more just like an inefficient thing. Like, dude, take care of these walkers. This fence is coming down. You just need to just go.
Yeah, there's no time for it. And then I didn't know if there was like some reason. I don't know what that click was. I don't know if it's like for some reason that it was actually to show the faces. There was the big-eyed zombie face that was there as well. Like, is there a reason behind that they'll explain later? Something like that.
So something interesting Sarah Parsons is saying on the chat. She's saying that Nick is the walker that.
That's a good
she
catch
named
if it is.
last week.
I just noticed that too. That might be possible.
So that's possible. So then, I mean, again, you have to wonder, maybe she named the walker Nick because it's still an important figure to them, or maybe it's just like...
Nick was the name tag he had. That was the
that?
whole
Okay.
thing. Yeah, Nick was the name
Right.
tag. But it's
Good
interesting because
catch.
Carol wasn't there in that conversation, so it's interesting that Carol knew that. So,
I don't know if Carol didn't know. I think she was just going along with it, like, okay, well,
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, that's interesting that
That's a good observation.
Lizzie's upset about Nick.
And then Baha Val thinks Ryan was the father's name, so that would be
Ryan.
good. I couldn't find it, but
Could be.
in short notice, I'm sure
Yeah.
someone will find it and put it on YouTube later. On our
Yeah,
comments.
sure.
They will.
It's like,
Thank you
guys,
for
come
those
on.
comments.
How did you guys not know that?
Right.
Sorry, we failed.
Sorry, we missed that minor character's
Sorry.
name.
We failed. So
We were too busy looking at Rick
As
taking
the-
moments to look at
yeah, I
fences and
know,
kill
taking the
zombies.
moments. So then the walkers are pushing the fence over, and Rick kind of looks back and notices the pigsty, and it comes to his attention like, hey, I've got an idea. Open the fence. He drives out with this truck with Derrial driving, and Team Rickle, apparently. I guess that's their name.
I like that.
And they drive out together, and he starts slicing these pigs up and leaving them kind of breadcrumbs for the walkers to take and get away from the fence. And I kind of agree with Derrial's sentiment. We were both kind of talking about this while we were watching, which is, why not just drive out there and shoot a gun?
Yeah.
Or some loud noise to draw them. I mean, if you read the comics and you know how walkers work, that's also kind of how you get the giant hordes, is if you make a loud noise, that's what causes hordes. So maybe that's why Rick's against shooting guns too, is just to prevent hordes.
Well, you know what it could be too, and I just thought of this now. So just because of the rats, just kind of teaching the zombies that the food supply isn't at the fence, that there's a food supply someplace else, maybe as well. So,
But yeah, okay. I mean, I can hear that, but
one rat is a very small food supply.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
nice little
what I was
piglet.
saying. Like, that's
Nice little
a
piglet.
small food supply to train them, but maybe.
that's the only thing I could think. Well, you have to get rid of the pigs anyway, because they said when Dr. Rest was analyzing, they said I think Herschel was the one that said this kind of flu usually gets spread by pigs and birds.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing by then they just figured we're not going to eat these things, and it doesn't make sense to keep them. So here's a good use for them. But it was I was like cringing seeing Rick stab those poor little piglets.
Yeah.
That's pretty heart-wrenching.
That
felt
and
bad
then,
for him.
that and the scene with the zombie going through the fence, this face going through the fence. Those were like the two goriest moments.
That wasn't heart-wrenching. That was awesome.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Well, yeah, that was a totally different kind of gory.
That was a
So.
gory, awesome moment. But yeah, so Rick is then. I mean, you can see from his face he's conflicted and upset about doing it. He definitely doesn't want to. And I mean, even like at the end, at first you hear the pig squealing, and then the music kind of overtakes it.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of like almost, and you see it later on. I think that was kind of like the death of Farmer Rick in a way, because he was raising these pigs.
Yeah.
He was being a farmer, and now here he has to kill the things he was
It's a great-
raising, and
great
it kind
thought.
of goes in with the very end with him, too. I think that was kind of like we're starting to see a different Rick, which we can talk more about. A little
Yeah,
bit.
which we'll talk about as we
Yeah.
get on the Rick the Farmer topic. But before
Sorry.
we do the Rick the Farmer topic, let's go ahead and say, guys, if you do want to, please go to iTunes, please rate, please comment, positive or negative. We just want to see what you guys think. And if you guys do like the show, it helps us out, definitely. And please go on YouTube. Also, comment, rate us. Again, positive or negative. We just want to hear what you think. We love interacting with you guys and hearing your thoughts. I'll be reading some of your comments from YouTube on here. And if you guys want to be part of the live chat that I've been reading off, that I've been talking to you guys on, you could always join us at 9 p.m. Pacific time every Sunday. So Sunday, 9 p.m. Pacific time, I believe that is midnight East Coast time. So, but 11 p.m. Central time from Chicago, where I'm from.
Yeah.
So that's not too late there. But if you guys do want to join us on the live chat, please do join us. You can call in too. We have a number to call in that should be at the bottom of the screen. And you can always join us on the live chat. So with that said, let's talk about Rick, the farmer. We start off with Rick farming with Carl going to help him out, Carl wants to go help out with the fence and wants his gun back. And Rick refuses to answer about the gun. He doesn't even give an answer to that. But Carl's kind of ready to move on, it seems like. Carl's listening to Rick. He's listening to his father, and he's doing what his father wants with the farming, but it seems like he does want to help with what seems like it's important, such as being part of the fence crew.
I like the line when someone asked Carl about his hat, about the police officer hat that he wears all the time from his dad, and he says it's not a farming hat. So I think that's a very
I thought that was a
apropos
great line, too.
Just to, again, changing from Rick the farmer and Carl the farmer's son to the soldiers or the leaders of the group.
Yeah. The Rangers of the group.
The Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers. There you go. I like that.
Yeah. So we then get Carl asking Carol. So then there's this moment with Carl and Carol too, which kind of further goes along with this. Carl is talking to Carol about what he saw the other night, and he asks about if Carl was a Patrick, if Patrick was a Catholic. If Carl was a Patrick, my mind's going. If Patrick was a Catholic, and that kind of leads and transitions into him. I guess that was his icebreaker, but that transitions into him talking about if the kid's parents know what Carol's doing, and if she got permission from the kid's parents and all that stuff. And Carol saying no, she thinks it's the right thing to do, and asks him not to be a snitch. Don't be a snitch,
kids.
She says
in prison.
Don't be a snitch.
No one likes a snitch in prison,
especially since they're in prison. Don't be no snitch. So she asks him not to say anything, not to necessarily lie to her father, but don't say anything. That's
his
what
father.
She asks of him.
His father. You called Carl a girl. Her father.
Her father. Well, he's
his
acting
hair,
like
his hair is long and all, but
yeah,
it's confusing me with the long hair, and I just don't get it. But yeah, so we then get the conclusion of this, which is after everything has happened, Carl asks Rick this as he's kind of burning down the pigsty. And after everything's happened, after Rick has gotten rid of the pigs, while the pigsty is burning in the background, Rick is telling Carl it's fine. He's not going to tell anybody. He'll keep it secret. And to me, I thought that the burning of the pigsty was the symbolism. That to me was the moment that symbolized the end of Rick the Farmer.
Yeah, no, I agree with
that burning in the background as everything's happening.
True. I mean, but that was a result of him killing the pigs too. So yeah, but that was the explanation point to the end of Rick the Farmer.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting because at that moment too, he puts the gun in the holster, and that was a big dramatic moment. And the fact that he put it on in front of Carl, I think, was also saying it's now okay. We can start going back to the way we were. And being Ranger Rick and Ranger Carl.
Well, I was
put
like,
your hat back on.
I was kind of shirt off, which I'm sure all the women like.
I was kind of pissed off that Carl told Rick, to be honest with you. But on the flip side of that, I was hoping that Rick would not be upset because of the fact that we're in a zombie apocalypse. We clearly need to teach the kids how to fight and arm themselves.
I just like.
So what would be the reason for a parent to get upset after that?
Well, Rick usually has something to say about everything as a massive point of view in the past that it's just interesting that they were able to have this conversation, and Carl was like, I think it's okay that she's doing this, by the way, but I just want to let you know. And he's like, okay. Yeah. It's a big, huge trust issue on both of them to have this kind of conversation. So I thought that was huge.
Yeah. Carl, you snitch.
You snitch.
And I mean, right now, to be honest, I was thinking about this during the show too. Rick he reminds me of Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars in the sense that Obi-Wan goes to Tatooine to get away from everything, but eventually he gets called back in. So Rick almost has this very zen moment. You can't really, in the zombie apocalypse, just go to another planet or go to another place. But so this was like his zen hiding away moment. But now that it seems like we're gonna need Rick now with everything else that I'm sure we're about to talk about, it's a good time for him and Carl to finally come back and say, okay, you know what? We need the old guy back. We need the guy who can take charge and make rational decisions back.
Well, especially with this outbreak going on and everything that we're about to talk about. But the other thing, too, with Rick is in the first episode of this season, we see him with music on as he's farming. So he's clearly tuning out all those moans that you always hear in the back, tuning that out, not hearing anything going on, just in his zen-like moment, as you were talking about, Nando. And now we end with him noticing the walkers on the wall, noticing that they're sort of starting to take it down again in another area. So he's kind of snapped back in the real world at this point. But let's go ahead and talk about all the madness that's going to be coming soon, because the beginning of the episode started with somebody feeding walkers rats, somebody, and we don't know who. And then later on, we have Sasha while they're doing the whole patrol, while they're kind of taking out the walkers who are knocking these over and noticing these rats. So go Sasha for that. but noticing that someone's been feeding rats. Like, who could it? Why would someone do that? Who could it be? Is it?
I was trying to figure that portion out. Like who?
Well,
who
is
in
it
that
is it
camp?
is it someone like the governor's governor's spy or something like that, or is it somebody want to do a mutiny, or just some crazy person who likes to feed zombies? Actually, my theory is, you know who I think it is? I think it's
the
Lizzie.
girl. Yeah, I was thinking maybe it's the girl.
She's
Maybe it's
hanging
Lizzie.
out so much by that fence. She's just like totally interacting with zombies and talking to
And
them.
Lizzie's upset with about Nick.
Yeah.
So maybe she was feeding Nick.
I could totally see, and she's definitely. I mean, her sister even said she's not all there. She
did say that.
She's not all there at all. So I
She's
could
messed
totally
up.
see her.
She's not
Messed
weak.
up.
Yeah, I kind of see that too. I think it could
That's
be
a good
Lizzie
one.
as well. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Although I could have been safe for predictions, but I was
Yeah, I was like,
we had-
are we
Oh, I
saving
got
this for
other predictions. I got other predictions, but I just
you
figured.
got predictions up the wazoo.
I got other predictions, but that was a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, so and then we have the ending moment of this, which is where poor Tyrese going to
with the flowers.
yeah,
with the
flowers,
flowers.
going to be romancing his lady Karen, especially after not being able to get any the night
Yeah,
before.
I think he was planning to get some that night.
Exactly, that's what flowers.
I wonder
do.
if the flowers had something to do with Lizzie too. If it was just another
that's kind of
institution
it.
of flowers, since that was huge with Lizzie.
That's a good point. Maybe
Yeah.
there was some symbolism to that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'll think
I
about
wonder
that.
if it was the same type of flower. I think it was a different type of flower though.
Yeah, I think it was different.
But so anyway, so then he goes there and he knows this dragged out blood.
Mhm.
So someone was either dragged or crawling, one of the two, but completely bloody. He follows the trail and Karen and David, I am laying there dead.
Sorry, David.
And
Sorry,
yeah, I've had to go like
So
that. I
sad.
don't even get to be seen.
you just get mentioned. In
I
one
only just get mentioned.
Yeah.
There's no. I was supposed to be in that scene, guys, and that was actually me. But no, so David and Karen are both burnt. Someone burnt them and lit them up with lighter fluid. The lighter fluid box is still there, a canister, so
Yeah.
no one even being discreet about it.
They left all the evidence.
So yeah, all the evidence being left there, and I don't know. Honestly, the first time I saw it, I thought it was a suicide thing. Maybe they were getting sick
Really?
and thought that was what I first thought. But it's possible someone is there feeding the rats.
It's a
doing all this
really
crap.
messed up way to do suicide. Let's just
I
burn
don't
each other
know.
on fire.
Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't want to.
That's
I'd
oh,
shoot myself
God.
or something.
The crazy thing is, my first thought actually when I saw the burning bodies was that it was Sasha, because of the fact that when she and was originally
That Sasha did it, or Sasha died?
did it. That's why originally for some reason just popped in my head, just because of the fact that she didn't seem too happy with the relationship with Karen earlier. So it just, I don't know, it just kind of popped in my head that possibly it was her, but maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I wanted to bring up, I did bring it up in predictions last week that, yeah, it started out with Karen coughing, and all of a sudden everyone's like perking their ears going, I heard coughing, you know,
Yeah.
and so there definitely was a little bit of that paranoia. So it seems to be, I think, more the motive.
But the good thing to me though with this, to me, I thought it would be worse. At least like with the paranoia, they didn't treat them horribly. Everyone understood. Even Karen was like, "Yeah, that makes sense. That I should be isolated."
Yeah.
Like everyone was kind of pretty cool about it. I thought like from previous seasons where they go nuts about minor things, they were like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense."
Everyone's
Let's
very
do this."
noble against that false sense of security. Everyone's just
Well, I don't know. It's
feels
good to be
safe.
noble.
I know it's good to be noble. I'm just saying, but it still is. I think in everyday situations, if someone was to get quarantined, you're like, I can't get quarantined.
Right.
But these people are like, yeah, you're right. I should be quarantined.
So Sarah Parsons saying her theory is whoever fed the rats to the walkers killed Karen and burned the bodies, but who's gone rogue? And that is the question. Joseph Bose is saying who would benefit the most from Karen being dead. That's the question. Sasha.
Sasha.
Well, she just didn't seem to be happy with Tyrese and Karen's relationship earlier. It was just something that it seemed
But
like
she wouldn't also be the one to plant the rats. It could be two different.
we
people.
yeah,
haven't
it could be two different
Yeah,
people.
we haven't seen any like mutiny or anyone like in Woodbury or in other seasons, like anyone, another alpha like Shane trying to take over or give other opinions. So that's what's so weird about the mystery of the rats
Maybe it was
and the mystery of
Bob.
this. Bob seems to be the one with the red flag right now. It could be a red herring, but Bob seems the one with the weird backstory that we don't know about yet.
Maybe whoever did thought they were doing the noble thing, and they're like, these people are sick, and they think they're doing the noble thing, even
Yeah.
if the person hasn't died yet. Even though you could just leave them locked up and wait till they die.
But to answer this question, you'd think it'd have to be somebody we know. And again, no one's really shown any grief or any animosity.
Nameless on the chat saying that it could be the person who's watching Carol in season 3, episode 2. I think that was awesome. That was.
Was it? We found out who that.
Yeah, I
we
think that was
found
the,
out who it was.
that
right?
was the Oscar, whatever his name was. Not Oscar, but the guy who. That was one of the guys from one of the prisoners or something.
Yeah, it was one of the prisoners.
Oh
There's a
yeah, that
prisoner
was.
who came back.
Yeah, that's who that was. But
Yeah.
they took care of him.
Yeah, they took him out.
They took
eventually.
him out.
I don't think that's who it was.
Yeah.
But might as well. So yeah, so that really does bring the big question: is like, okay, who is it who's doing this stuff? Who's the rats? Who is the person who's burying the bodies? Is it the same person? Is
I
it a
think it's
different
two
person?
separate people.
So I think it's two separate people too. That's my thoughts. But we'll get into some more predictions. But before we do that, let's go and talk about some news and gossip.
All right.
AfterBuzz TV News.
All right, I guess I'll start off, Nando.
Yeah.
All right, so we got the ratings in from the first episode from season 4 of The Walking Dead from last week. 16.1 million viewers tuned in to The Walking Dead. They killed it in the ratings. Killed it.
Most ever.
Most ever. Yes. So congratulations to AMC because they are doing a substantial, great job.
They needed something to hit after Breaking Bad. Well, I mean, it already was hitting.
It was already
But I
hitting.
mean, like, great for them. They're doing well.
They are doing really well. In reference to, we talked a lot about Patrick tonight, the character Patrick, who's played by Vincent Martella, who I knew from Everybody Hates Chris. He was actually interviewed this week about his character and his role and what he thought about working on The Walking Dead, and this is what he had to say about it. The great part about working on this show is how incredibly real the experience was. The actual set piece they have built at their studio in Georgia, the prison, is so massive, it's kind of breathtaking when you first see it, let alone when it's filled with walkers. Being in that environment keeps everyone in the mood of the show. I think it's a really cool experience to have as an actor. It gets everyone in character very quickly.
And that's also why they decided not to change places at the beginning of the season.
Exactly.
Because they put so much money into this set.
Exactly. And the last piece that I have is if you are in New York City, this is something great for you to possibly go check out. In honor of the anniversary for The Walking Dead, it's called, they actually have a gallery in New York during the month of October. Especially during New York Comic Con. It's called The Walking Dead, A Decade of the Dead at Pilar 37 Gallery in New York City. The event features tons of rare artwork and illustrations from the comics, special effects, makeup, and props from the TV show, licensed Walking Dead merchandise, and framed photos from the documentary. So if you are in New York, you should check that out this month before the month is over. And tell us how it is. Actually, send us some photos.
Yeah, I would
We'd
love
like
to
to
see
see it.
some. That's really cool. So
And
if
then-
anyone's in the New York area.
Yeah, and then if you're in Atlanta, Georgia, from November 1st through November 3rd, there's a convention. It's I guess the official Walking Dead convention now. It's called Walker Stalker Con, and it's November 1st through 3rd. And most of the cast is going to be there. It looks really cool. Andrew Lincoln's going to be there. Norman Reedus, Scott Wilson, Greg Nicotero. They actually have a concert with Emily Kinney. We got to hear her sing a little bit in tonight's episode, but she's going to be
Always
doing that
They've
too.
been utilizing that a lot.
Yeah,
right there.
and it's walkerstalkercon.com, and it's thrown by a couple of guys who do another podcast. But it looks really awesome. If I was on the East Coast, I definitely would be going to this. So maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
I want to hear more Tyrese singing. That's what that basically is. Instead of
I
the
got
Pat
you
singing transitions, let's have Tyrese singing transitions.
skin.
So, before we do some predictions, I did want to do Kristen's contest, mention some of that stuff. So,
Who's not here today?
Who's not here today? Kristen is in Disney World, and I hate her for it because I want to be there. But instead of being in this depressing world of Walking Dead, she's in the happiest place on earth.
Happiest place on earth.
But she did want to shout out. So the 5 people whose names are being entered from last week are Brian Fernandez, Jonathan Children, Kevin Chiktao Chang, Mr. Senior, and Mezzy Mez. Congratulations, guys. You are all entered in the drawing for the poster. And we have a question for you to also be entered in 5 more people this week. And the way it's going to work is you can be entered in a total of 3 times. So if you answer correctly again as one of the first 5 people, you can be entered in a second time. It'll be for a total of 3 times. So guys, here's the next question for you for next week for Kristen's contest. What is T-Dog's real name? Trick question is T-Dog. I don't know that, so I'm curious to see. So guys, what is T-Dog's real name? If you answer that in the questions, is the question for next week where you could be entered into Kristen's contest. So, with that, let's get into some of the YouTube comments from you guys. Joshua Tabber saying, I was listening and Bob's character clicked for me. I wonder if there's a reference to the Walking Dead novel, The Road to Woodbury, and apparently there's a character, a medic just like Bob, who is an alcoholic. very similar. I actually haven't read the Road to Woodbury novel, so
I just downloaded it. I got to read it this week. So.
But I mean, that would make sense. It seems like they do a lot of these crossovers. I'll be curious to see if we see some of the characters like Clementine or something from the Walking Dead game.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
But I think that makes sense that they reference that. Might as well. And they already wrote out that character. They already have a strong character, so they want to throw him in the show. Sherry Myco thinks that Bob may be a recovering alcoholic, and that would make sense from last week what we saw. Sportney4 says Carol's character development might be what I'm most excited for this season, aside from Michonne hunting down the governor. So yeah, we're seeing a lot with Carol, especially this episode. So hopefully Sportney enjoyed this episode with what Carol was doing. Callie Filipino says 6 to 7 months have passed since season 3, and Sasaki Yori on iTunes also telling us that. Apparently that was revealed on Talking Dead.
On Talking
last week,
Dead,
so,
Scott Campbell said that. Yeah.
So there we go. That is the answer to that question. Poetic Justice 1000 saying there was a somewhat happy lingering look between Rick and Michonne last week. So here's the Rick and Michonne thing. A lot of you guys are commenting saying that you think there's something going on with Rick and Michonne that we've been missing, that we haven't touched on. Personally, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that Rick is just happy to have someone to take care of his kids like Michonne. And I think Rick's not over his wife. I really just don't see Rick at all over his wife. But that's just me.
I mentioned it a little bit last week where this connection really came from Clear, from last season's episode Clear, which was such a great episode, and then they bonded there. And I agree. I don't think there's a love relationship there. But you know what? I think part of it's also because Rick's in a very zen moment right now. He's not looking for love. But you know what? I'll save it for predictions, but you can hint that I'm where I'm going by saying that. So I do feel like there's something there.
Yeah, and my feeling for it is that, you know, they focused so much last season on the fact that Rick did not trust her.
Yeah.
That I think they need to do those type of things now, show a connection because she's in a different space with the group, and he does trust and consider her one of his team and people. So I think that's where the glances come from. It's like, let's show this form of the relationship, how it's changed. You know, this season.
I really just see it as like a positive, mutually beneficial, where they trust each other type of thing. I really don't.
If
see
a booty call happens, it happens.
Yeah, if it happens, it happens.
It happens.
Great.
Well, Tyrese is single now too.
Right.
You never know. I mean, there could be some competition there.
Yeah, the two badasses together, I'm all for it. I just don't see Rick being over his wife. I just don't see that.
I don't either.
Chris Martinez predicts that Herschel will die next of the main characters because of how Beth is reacting to death. He thinks that something has to either snap her out of it or cause her to snap.
I love that prediction.
That's actually, I like that prediction.
I like that one a lot.
That's why I read that one. So yeah,
Good job,
great
Dave.
prediction. And guys, as far as Christmas contest, some of you guys were asking on the chat. That is YouTube answers. So answer on YouTube if you want to be entered in for a chance to
People
win the
think
poster.
that Derrial might be next just because of the whole licking his hand before he shook Patrick's. I saw a lot of that like on Twitter and
Yeah, I
such.
saw
What do you
that,
think
but
about that? I
don't
think
think it's happening.
I think it's
Your
possible.
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
That leads
Apparently
to
that's a
prediction.
call that we got to go to predictions.
Yes. Got it.
So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about our predictions here. So, what do you guys see happening for next week, and also in the future? Who do you think is going to be the first to die of the main group?
The first to die? I actually have a feeling that Beth is going to die soon. There was a weird feeling I had with her singing the song and then making a note of that.
I don't wanna grow up.
That she could possibly be the next one to bite it.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I love the Herschel idea, though. I really do like that one. You know, I'm going to say Sasha. I feel like I always say Sasha for some reason. And
What is it about you and
I
Sasha?
don't know.
Why don't you
Well,
like her?
You know,
What's up with that, Nando?
originally because she was on Once Upon a Time, but her character died recently on Once Upon a Time. So now I have
Spoiler.
no other.
Right. Spoiler.
Spoiler alert.
If you
Spoiler
watch that
alert.
show, you haven't seen
If
that
you watch that show, she died like a month ago. If you haven't watched
Spoiler!
it,
Spoiler alert.
oh boy, I'm getting it. I'm getting it from you guys.
You'll
That's
get, the,
two.
you'll get the
I'm getting
messages on
it.
YouTube and iTunes.
Just the name is Nando. There you go. Damn him.
or Nandy.
No,
Or Nandy.
I won't read that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's what I would say. I'll say Sasha.
I kind of actually I like that Herschel idea, but I don't see him dying yet for a while just because of the leg thing. I feel like he's still got a little bit of time.
He's had
left in
that
him.
leg thing for so long.
But still, I don't know. I just don't see him being the next to go of the main group.
Okay.
I think, God, man, let me think of this for a moment. And you guys, who do you think of? Okay, so I think as far as the rats go, I already said it. I think that the rats is the girl. I think it's the kid.
Yeah, I think it's Lizzie or
I think
Mika.
it's Lizzie specifically. I don't think it's Mika, but I think it's Lizzie because she's messed up.
Yeah.
She's not weak. I think it's Lizzie. As far as the burnt bodies, that I'm conflicted on. I don't know. I guess it wouldn't be a suicide because that would be stupid to kill yourself that way if you're going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's someone who thinks that they were doing the right thing but wasn't. So I'm going to say maybe Bob. I'm going to go with Bob. That's my prediction.
Really? Wow.
I'm gonna go with Sasha on that prediction. And then
Yeah.
Sasha
Ooh,
will
okay, that's a
burn the
good
bodies.
prediction too.
Sasha, and then she dies.
Sasha, there she does.
Who's yours, Nando? Who do you think?
For what?
For the burned bodies.
Yeah, I think it's Sasha.
Oh, you think it's Sasha?
Yeah, I think it's
Okay,
Sasha.
All right.
Yeah.
I thought you were mocking me. Sorry.
No. And then she dies because I also predict she's gonna die. So Sasha, and then she dies.
You know what? I'm going to say Sasha. I'll go with you, Nando. I think that Sasha might be the next one to
Yeah.
die.
Oh,
I'll go with
okay.
that.
Hey,
So
I'm
it's
swaying
3
you guys.
Sashas.
I don't. Yeah, I don't have a reason why other than I just can't see anyone else dying yet at this point. So
Yeah.
that's really all it is. All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining us this week. And once again, you can find me on Twitter at Dave Klein. That is Klein. I kind of enunciated that weird. Yeah, I guess that is how I would enunciate it. The Dave Klein, Klein on Twitter. Follow me.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Nandovel, Nandovel.
And you can find me at Derrial Christon, DerrialChriston, at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and at our sister site, Black Hollywood Live.
Which you should check out. Black Hollywood Live
Yes.
is awesome. Check it out. See you guys next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.